But anyway, look, it was 7 minutes and 44 seconds of nothing but a rant from an old man that speaks shit. And all he could do was attack Stephen personally. He had no facts, no proof, just his opinions. Well, whether they're his opinions or his master's opinions, I don't know. But look, the bottom line is, Wayne, that video just shows that you're not even a man. You're nothing but a liar. You're nothing but a traitor. And I've got to be honest here for a minute. I mean, I am all the time anyway, but I'm going to be exceptionally honest at the moment, right now. I honestly cannot wait to see a nut rope around your neck. Snap your neck. Hang you until you're dead for being the traitor that you are. And, like I said, I'm quite looking forward to it. But anyway, look, as you can see, there was really nothing to rebut. It's just a rant by an old man that's working for the enemy, that's made an oath to the enemy, that is working against the people of this country. That's all that video was. And that's all that video showed me. So anyway, I'll leave that there. By all means, watch his video. Watch Stephen's videos, make your own mind up. Read his papers, make your own mind up. Don't listen to some old fool, some old moron, some old traitor, and don't let him speak for you or make your mind up for you. You really should make it up for yourself. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. And I'm looking forward to seeing that rope around your neck, Wayne. I really am, because I think you deserve it.
Okay, I'm looking again at State of New South Wales versus Giskin, preliminary 2021 New South Wales Supreme Court 915 document. Hearing date 21st July 2021, date of orders, decision date 27 July 2021, jurisdiction common law before Justice Julia Lonigan. This time I'm going to be focusing on the affidavit from Detective Senior Constable Matthew Reason from the Fixated Persons Unit of New South Wales Police Force. So we're going to start down here at item 17. This is where the story starts. The defendant's personal circumstances and the relevant history. 17. The defendant was born in March 1970 as 51 years of age. He works as a truck driver and at the time of arrest lived with his de facto wife and 2 sons. He has a criminal record involving driving offences in 1997 and a destroy and damage property in 2014. He came to police attention in September 2019 in the context of an assault charge involving a neighbour. His behaviour at Picton Local Court in October 2019 was odd, in that he denied that he was the named defendant and asserted that arresting police were, by arresting him, committing crimes that should be tried in The Hague. The magistrate determined that if he, Mr. Kiskinen, was not in fact the defendant, then the person who was the defendant needed to be arrested, and that led to a warrant being issued. The defendant was duly arrested at court and the proceedings continued. He failed to appear on 29 October 2019, leading to other charges. Item 18. All of this led to his coming under the observation of the New South Wales Police Fixated Persons Unit, which, having observed him for a period, concluded, via DSC Gatwood in December 2019, that he was, quote, not a threat at that time, end quote. So my first question is, why did he come under the Fixated Persons Unit observation? Because he had an odd defense at a court case. It seems that there's not really anything there that would warrant police fixated persons unit attention. But yes, nonetheless, they brought him under observation, and then DSC Gatwood in December 2019 found that he was not a threat at that time. Item 19. However, concerns about him continued, and he was observed during both 2019 and 2020. So these concerns must have ended pretty quickly, because DSC Gatwood concluded in December of 2019 that he was not a threat at that time. However, concerns about him continued, and he was observed during both 2019 and 2020. So maybe DSC Reason picked the ball up as soon as Gatwood put it down, I'm guessing. DSC Reason, in his affidavit, sets out the basis upon which he holds concerns about the defendant as a member of the, quote, United Kingdom of Australia, end quote. So the affidavit in the document starts at paragraph 6. So we don't know what was in the first 5 paragraphs. So 6. Quote, the United Kingdom of Australia, UKOA, is an organisation which holds beliefs that are commonly referred to as those of the sovereign citizen movement. This means that they do not consider the laws of Australia to be legitimate, nor do they believe that such laws should or do apply to them. The ideologies of the sovereign citizen movement have their origins in a number of anti-government movements, which emerged in the United States of America in the 1970s. UKOA is one of a number of sovereign citizen groups and individuals which I have been monitoring since commencing duties at the Fixated Persons Investigation Unit in 2018. So this organisation that is the United Kingdom of Australia holds beliefs that are commonly referred to as those of the sovereign citizen movement. Commonly referred to by who? This, to me, this is an insane thing to put on the record, because you've really got no basis for making that statement. Commonly referred to as those of the sovereign citizen movement. I think if you talk to anyone in one of these supposed movements, they would not be using the words sovereign and citizen in conjunction with each other. And this notion that the ideologies of the sovereign citizen movement have their origins in a number of anti-government movements which emerged in the United States of America in the 1970s, I don't see any evidence of that whatsoever. But anyway, he doubles down on this in paragraph 7. UKOA members adhere to a set of pseudo-legal theories which descend directly from American sovereign citizen theories, but which were adapted for the Australian context by Stephen Spires. Mr. Spires, born 27 December 1973. Anyway, Mr. Spires advocates for an alternative history of the world wherein both the United States of America and the United Kingdom were taken over by, quote, world bankers, end quote, due to their various war debts. Now, this is just history. This is actual history. And I have not seen anything in Stephen's work where he adapted anything from American sources. Firstly, this is the problem when those doing the surveillance are completely ignorant of fact. Australia is a principality. America, the United States of America, is a republic. So at law, they're very different. How could he possibly have applied something from the United States? And he never goes on to mention what it was specifically that Stephen or Yuha borrowed from. And he never actually cites Stephen Spires in his documentation other than as a third party. Why is Stephen's material not in evidence? So there's a question just there about how genuine Detective Senior Constable Matthew Reason is. Is he ignorant, or did he pull the trigger too soon and then just keep digging a hole? Paragraph 8. The original American ideology from which the UKOA thinking has been appropriated is more forthright in acknowledging that the, quote, world bankers, end quote, are to be understood as Jewish. This latent anti-Semitism, along with an allied anti-Catholicism, is an undercurrent throughout UKOA thought. This can be seen in social media posts and other media published on the internet, both in overt reference to supposed Jewish and Catholic influence, as well as coded language such as, quote, world bankers, end quote, and, quote, occupiers, end quote. Once again, there's no link. Where's your link, Detective Senior Constable Reason, that any of this was appropriated from American ideology? There's nothing. It's just. And what is anti-Semitism at law? What is anti-Catholicism? There's no definitions for these terms. Paragraph 9. In UKOA theories, as a dominion, Australia too is believed to come under the administration of these, quote, world bankers, end quote. Despite being supposedly awarded its own, quote, kingdom, end quote, at the Treaty of Versailles. Ultimately, the Australian people were supposedly tricked into accepting occupation and slavery through the use of birth certificates, which mortgage the individual to the corporation and represent an acceptance of the corporate law. In some manner, this corporation is believed to have ties to the Vatican. UKOA members believe that, as civilians in an occupied country, they have protections under the various laws of armed conflict, which exempt them from the authority of the police, the judicial system, and the laws of the federal and state governments. It's so crazy that he put this on the record. Australian people were supposedly tricked into accepting occupation and slavery through the use of birth certificates, which mortgage the individual to the corporation and represent an acceptance of the corporate law. Very interesting. Also interesting that he uses the words, he uses the word civilians now. It was citizen before. So he keeps flipping all these terms around. And is it random, or is it done intentionally? I'm not sure. but he's pretty much laying out what they did. And then saying this is their theory. So paragraph 10, Mr. Spires claims to have taken up the vacant line of authority of the Australian, quote, kingdom, end quote, and has subsequently been declared by his followers as the, quote, king, end quote, of UKOA. His two books, Realm and Man and Realm and Commonwealth, constitute the central documents of the belief system. I really just hate the way that these indoctrinated morons use words like belief system. I thought we deal in facts. Constitute the central documents of the belief system. Yeah, it's amazing. So, sorry, back to it. Also important is a document entitled Timeline, which was authorised by U.R. Kiskonen, in brackets, Mr. Kiskonen, born, redacted, 1970, and a document entitled, quote, Bill of Rights 1, end quote, which is of uncertain authorship. The stated aim of the UKOA movement is to declare the, quote, true, end quote, Kingdom of Australia, remove its members from the authority of Australian law and place them instead under the authority of both, quote, king, end quote, Spires, and an idiosyncratic conception of the common law. Ultimately, they believe that the Australian government and its occupying forces will be ejected from Australia, and various police, judges, and so on will be executed after being tried by military tribunals under the authority of The Hague. The interest in executing public officials is a recurrent theme, appearing in videos, memes, and online discussion distributed online. Online discussion distributed online. Okay. King Spires. King George, Queen Elizabeth, Queen Victoria. King Spires, it's a surname. Ultimately, they believe that the Australian government and its occupying forces will be ejected from Australia. And various police, judges, politicians and so on will be executed after being tried by military tribunals under the authority of The Hague. So maybe this is why you become so fixated. You need to make sure that doesn't happen by snuffing out the flame. That's what I think. That's what I see. 11. Prior to the involvement of Mr. Kiskonen, and in particular the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, Mr. Spires was one of many theorists in the Australian sovereign citizen community. His abrasive interpersonal style and claim to be the Australian monarch tended to alienate others and led to him being the subject of considerable ridicule. This changed noticeably when the COVID-19 pandemic appeared to contribute to a sudden interest in conspiracy theories about the virus and concerns over quarantine restrictions. Many individuals searched for answers via social media and encountered sovereign citizen ideology, which appeared to offer an answer to these concerns. Many individuals appeared to draw upon the involvement of Mr. Kiskonen, who took the UKOA doctrine and explained it in a simpler, less hostile, and more charismatic fashion. His authorship of the Timeline document, his numerous YouTube videos and online commentary meant that individuals could access UKOA theory in a simpler and more entertaining fashion. Based upon the engagement with the material online that I observed in my surveillance of UKOA internet sites, this appeared to be more popular than reading Mr. Spires' books, which are voluminous, poorly written, arcane, and somewhat convoluted. Conversations I have had with members of the UKOA tend to reference the works of Mr. Kiskonen more frequently, and specifically than those of Mr. Spires. The latter are revered, but it is unclear how many followers of the UKOA have read them in any detail. Every paragraph, there's so much to unpack. I was going to start at the top, but I think I'll start with this. Conversations I've had with members of UKOA tend to reference the works of Mr. Kiskonen, blah, blah, blah. Conversations you have had, Detective Senior Constable Reason. I thought you were just observing. Because this is very interesting. If you are interjecting, are you not changing what you are observing? It makes you no longer an observer. But yeah, I wanted to go over the point at the start too. Mr. Spires is one of many theorists in the Australian sovereign citizen community. He's not a theorist. And this sovereign citizen community, I don't know what this is. And his abrasive interpersonal style and claim to be the Australian monarch. He has never made this claim, to my knowledge, but this is bandied around a lot. And this is the Supreme Court of New South Wales. This is an affidavit. It should be factual. So why? And we'll see later on. There are videos from Ewa Kiskonen on this record as evidence, but there aren't videos of King Spires. So, given he is so central, given he's been mentioned so many times already, we're 5 paragraphs in. We're only 5 paragraphs in, and Stephen Spires has been mentioned more than you are. So why is evidence pertaining to him not included? Paragraph 12. Mr. Kiskonen administers a YouTube account, John K., which has 1,930 subscribers, and 2 Facebook accounts, Ewa Kalevi Kiskonen and Ewa Kiskonen, which are followed by 926 and 950 people respectively. UKOA also has had a number of Facebook groups in which Mr. Kiskonen has also been active, including the discontinued group Remaining Loyal to the Kingdom of Australia, which had 2,300 members, and the successor site, Introduction to the Anzac Research Group, which has 1,500 members. These are believed to be the public sites from which more dedicated members are eventually invited to closed groups for further discussion. It has been my observation that Mr. Kiskonen's posts, and his videos in particular, were a major focal point for UKOA. Videos produced by Mr. Spires were often introduced and referred to by Mr. Kiskonen through his various formats. And all of this, why? Why are we observing this? The United Kingdom of Australia is not a designated terrorist group. It could not be. So what is the relevance? Why are you observing? What's the risk? What's the threat? It's spoken about. He speaks about it as though this work is to disrupt terrorists trying to plot to blow up an airport or something. But there's no There's no threat. The threat is that he was talking about punishment that might result through the process of international law and the laws of war on land goes back to 1907. So it's 113, 114 years old at this point. He was not making threats, but pointing out what might happen anyway the justice finds this. 13. Mr. Kisconen's YouTube channel was a major focal point of the movement and a venue from which he regularly told his followers that they did not have to obey the law or police and encouraged confrontation. For example, the YouTube videos Notice to Police, 27 July 2020. New South Wales Police have a lot to answer for. And they arrest him, they raid his home and arrest him 3 days later. 5th of May 2020, only citizens can be fined by police. 11 April 2020, New South Wales Police are getting the picture. 20 May 2020, police treaties and the common law of war. 7th of May 2020, New South Wales Police take notice. 6th of May 2020, there are rules we must follow. No more threatening title than that. 1st of May 2020. In a YouTube video on 26th of June 2020, how to get off the citizenship, Mr. Kisconen told viewers that they were actually required to ignore the law as subjects of UKOA. On 27 July 2020, YouTube video Notice to Police, he stated that he would no longer be attending court when required to do so. He suggested that he would not be pursued in regard to his non-appearance as the courts and police would know he was beyond their jurisdiction. So once again, we've just got a list of videos where Mr. Kisconen is addressing the New South Wales Police. I'm still not seeing a threat. Still not seeing a reason for the fixation, for the observation. Paragraph 14. On 25th of May 2020, Mr. Kisconen posted a video on YouTube in which he indicated that Mr. Spires had been declared King of Australia and encouraged people to make the oaths of allegiance. This was followed by an online campaign through YouTube and Facebook of getting as many individuals to swear allegiance as possible as part of the emergence of the kingdom. A campaign of raising the red ensign flag at war memorials across Australia was undertaken, beginning with Mr. Kisconen doing so at Campbelltown on 17 July 2020. It is believed that Mr. Kisconen declared himself to be the Lord Mayor of Campbelltown on this occasion. What does that mean? It is believed. By who? How do you put this on the record? It is believed that Mr. Kisconen declared himself to be the Lord Mayor of Campbelltown on this occasion. So you don't know? It is believed. So your beliefs are okay, but not the defendants. 15. The red ensign flag, and specifically an early version of it, is used by UKOA as their flag. UKOA adherents believe that it signals their jurisdiction and that, by flying it, they render themselves immune from action by police under international law. Mr. Spires and others have advocated a theory that this is a land flag, which places them outside the jurisdiction of Admiralty law, as represented by the blue Australian national flag. Just spectacular that he's putting this on record. have Mr. Spires and others have advocated a theory that this is a land flag. So its dimensions don't make it a land flag. The fact that it's got a 9-pointed star doesn't make it a land flag, but no, this is a theory. There's a real sense that Detective Senior Constable Reason is the one who feels threatened. And that he is continuing in his fixation in order to reduce the threat to him. And his fixation on the opinion of Mr. Kiskonen that capital punishment could come the way of war criminals is threatening to Detective Senior Constable Reason. So, yeah, the picture is unfolding very clearly. On 4th of July 2021, Mr. Kiskonen announced that the UKOA would be holding an Australia Day ceremony on the 31st July 2020. This was to occur at the main war memorial in each state capital. Police subsequently learned that this was intended to be a day at which the Kingdom of Australia was to be declared and the red ensign flag was to be consecrated. It was also intended to remove any Australian national flags from the monuments and replace them with the red ensign. In his video, Mr. Kiskonen outlined plans for mass oaths and an intent to put the Government of Australia on notice. This was to be the most significant event in UKOA's history to this date. Mr. Kiskonen spent a great deal of time and money organising this event, which he comments on in his videos, and included Mr. Kiskonen writing speeches, purchasing flags, and having flyers printed. While Mr. Kiskonen was ultimately arrested prior to the events, simultaneous events did go ahead in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide. With the exception of Adelaide, these individuals were prevented from interfering with the memorials through intervention of police. There is just so much wrong with this paragraph. It was also intended to remove any Australian national flags from the monuments and replace them with the red ensign. I thought we were monitoring terrorists, people that blow stuff up, that threaten the safety, that threaten the peace. So the worst case scenario, if there were any shred of evidence that this was true, would be that some flags would be changed. Yeah, so what's a theory? What's a threat? And I think the flyer that he mentions, which very, very interestingly was not put into evidence because of what I'll show you now, tells you everything. Well, Mr. Kiskonen was ultimately arrested prior to the event. Simultaneous events did go ahead in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide. With the exception of Adelaide, these individuals were prevented from interfering with the memorials through intervention of police. Interfering with memorials, what, by honouring their dead? From all the footage I've seen of these events, this Australia Day ceremony, they were completely peaceful. There was no interference. There was no plan for interference. But yes, I'll show you now the flyer in question that he refers to but doesn't enter into evidence. And it makes this very clear. So taking a look at this event flyer, hour du jour, Australia Day, lest we forget again, Australia Day anniversary program, July 31st, 2020. This one's from Queensland, it seems. Second, third pages. Order of ceremony. Dawn service, 6:15 a.m. Smoking ceremony. Gathering. Elders speech. Consecration, flag raising, prayer. Anzac verse of anthem. Wreaths. Commemoration oath. Prayer for peace. And then most of those things are repeated at the 11 a.m. service. I can't see taking down the blue ensign anywhere in here. Maybe it appears later. Page 4 and 5. This is the speech. 105 years ago in 1915, on this last Friday in July, the people of the Commonwealth of Australia celebrated their first Australia Day. Australia Day was originally to raise funds to support our Anzac in the First World War. Supporting our Anzac through patriotic fundraising was a way that those unable to fight could contribute to the defence of the realm. We have a consecration service. I'm still not seeing anything about taking down the GovCo flag. Flag raising. Prayer. We bow our heads in silence for this morning. We remember them, lest we forget. We have an Anzac verse of anthem, wreaths to be laid by people in the crowd, commemoration oath, Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act, schedule oath. I do swear that I'll be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Royal Highness King Stephen, his heirs and successors according to law. So help me God. So who's threatened here? And then the last page is a prayer for peace. Greater love hath no man than this, than a man lay down his life for his friends. From ancient times to this day, the coming together of families of all cultures and backgrounds to answer the call to duty and sacrifice have given their lives in defense of their right to their God, King and country. This enables us to enjoy the peace and justice we enjoy today, and which must be preserved to ensure our prosperity as a people. The Anzac and all those that gave their lives to create legacies, those who gave their all, so that their sons may continue to enjoy their freedoms today, we honour today and every day. On this Australia Day, we, as brethren, families united in defence, have returned home. Ancient tribal families of the same lands, we unite in law. to share the love of God and to remember those before us. In this unity of cultures old and new, we declare peace and pay tribute to the sacrifice and patriotism of our ancestors and defenders of the faith, defender of the realm. Blessed are the peacekeepers, for they shall be called the children of God. And as those children, we declare peace for all. As the sons of those Anzac, in whose footsteps we walk, shall we never let their shadow lessen the memory of the sacrifice of our fathers, lest we forget. And then it's got the name of an organization, or I guess the publisher of this flyer, the Australian Royal Council, says thanks for your attendance. So why is the Australian Royal Council isn't mentioned anywhere in the affidavit, but the UKOA? Very strange. So I'll pick this up in part 2, and we might get to the bottom of what's behind the fixation.